Hello everyone, my name is Tehzeeb and I am an animation educationist from Mumbai. So very happy to meet you all. Let me start off a little bit about the basics of animation, a little bit about the history of animation, how it all started. So many years ago in the 1800s, in 1825, there was this physicist called John A. Paris. He invented a thaumatrope device. This is a thaumatrope. This is an optical toy. So in the 1800s, there were children didn't have television, they didn't have their PlayStation and their Game Boy and their Xbox. And what do you think they did? They had nothing to do. They were bored. There was no television. There were no movies. There was no Cartoon Network. So they played with toys like these. This is a thaumatrope. And this is how it looked. So you can see there is this caveman on one side, and on the opposite side, upside down, is this cage, right? And we'll have to see whether this caveman fits inside the cage. Let's see if it works, okay? So I'm going to spin this. And does he fit inside? Oh yes, he does. And he's holding those bars, if you can see. So what's happening here? There are two images, and when I move it very quickly, it looks like one image, right? Now how do you think that is happening? What is happening? So our brain has a power to blend pictures, to merge them and make them look like one when they're moving at a certain speed, right? So, so there are two pictures, and what our brain does is remembers this picture for a fraction of a second, and very quickly when the next picture is seen, it merges and blends both the pictures. And that quality that we have is called persistence of vision. It's the power of the brain to blend pictures. Okay? So how many of you all know how cartoon films are made? Or any films? How do you think they're made? So in cartoon films, an animation artist has to make 24 different drawings, right? So 24 different drawings for 1 second of movement. So how fast does 1 second go? You blink an eye and the 1 second is over. So how does it look like one continuous movement? Do you see 24 different drawings there? No. You see a continuous flow of images, right? It's a continuous movie. So that happens because our brain, when it's playing at a certain speed, our brain blends the pictures and gives the illusion of movement. That's how animation is made. So let's say an animator has to make 24 drawings of the hand moving from year to year. He will put one drawing here, 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 one drawing here. And when all these images are drawn and played on a computer or on a screen or on a projector, it looks like the hand is just moving across the screen, right? So that is how animation films are made. So let's go further back in time, 35,000 years ago, when man was living in the caves. And in the caves, when he was living in the caves, he tried to recreate whatever he saw around him. He tried to create the trees, the rivers, the mountains, the flowers, and he made sketches on the cave walls. But he also tried to recreate movement. And when he saw animals moving, he tried to create animals with 4 pairs of legs, as you see in the picture. In 1600 BC, there was this temple of goddess Isis that had 110 columns of goddess Isis in different positions. And when horsemen and charioteers rode past it at a certain speed, it looked like goddess Isis was actually dancing. The ancient Greek pots also had sketches on them, and when you spin the Greek pot, it looked like the man was running. So humans were trying to create movement even those many years back. Now we were talking about persistence of vision and how film works, how animation works, and how animation films are made. If you go to a film screening, you see that the film strips are put onto a projector, which is then projected on a screen. But when you look closely at the film strip, they have individual images. So even live action films and animation films have a series of images which are then played at a certain speed and because of that speed, the brain blends the images and gives the illusion of movement. And that's why we can see films on screen or on television. If we didn't have this power of persistence of vision, we wouldn't be able to see films, we would be able to see individual images. So that wouldn't be fun at all. So what are the other examples of persistence of vision? So persistence of vision is all around us. So look around you, see if you can see examples of persistence of vision around you. Something that looks different when it moves fast, and when it's still, it looks different. So the first example that comes to my mind is a fan. Okay, if you look up at your fan in your room, you will see that it has 3 blades. But when you switch it on, it looks like there are hundreds of blades there, and it looks like a big round circle. So that is one example of persistence of vision. Can you think of more examples? So after the thaumatrope comes the phenakistoscope. Now this is a very interesting device because you can't just see it like that when you turn it around. So you have to hold it with a stick and it turns around, but you can only view it in front of a mirror. So you can't view it like that. So I'll just share some demonstrations of this, but we're going to discuss more about the phenakistoscope, which was invented in 1832 by Joseph Plato, a little later, because the phonotrope that we're going to be creating is very similar to this one. And in 1834, this beautiful optical device was invented. It's one of my favorites. It's called a zoetrope, and it was invented by William George Horner in 1834, as I said. And it has this series of, again, 12 images, and if you look through the slot, it looks like there is a movement. So you can see this man, he's rolling over. So we'll show you a demonstration of that. And then comes this one, which was invented in 1877. All these were invented in the 1800s. And this is called the praxinoscope. This has the mirror, if you can see there's a mirror. And again, it has a strip very similar to the zoetrope. Okay? And this, when it spins, you can see the images. You can actually see the images, the movement in the mirror. So it's very fascinating. So we're back to this phenakistoscope. The reason we are back is because we're going to be creating something very similar to this. We're going to be creating a phonotrope. A phonotrope is going to look like this, and it's going to be shot under a camera. Now you guys are going to shoot the camera after you all make your drawings. We're going to make 16 drawings on a paper plate. So I hope all of you all have a paper plate, a blank paper plate like this at home. We're going to create the 16 divisions on this paper plate, and then we're going to animate. But before we make the divisions, we have to find the center of the circle. So we're going to find the center of this paper plate, right? So you can see this sharp corner of the paper plate. That's the edge that we're going to use, and we're going to draw 2 lines. Okay, so I have a ruler here, and I'm going to find 2 lines. So I'm taking a line which is around 8 inches. I'm going to make a line. So this line is 8 inches from one edge to the other. Now I'm using a pen but I want all of you to use a pencil because we're going to erase these lines later on. And the center of 8 inches is 4 inches, so we'll make a marking for the center. We need the center of this line. Again, at a different angle, we will again take 8-inch line from one edge of the paper plate to the other edge, and we make a line which is 8 inches, and we mark the center which is 4 inches. So we have these two lines. Again, please note that you will be using pencil here and not a pen, because we're going to erase this later after we find the center point. Then you take a protractor. This is a protractor. So many of you may have used this in a geometry class, and you get a 90 degrees. 90 degrees is a perpendicular line. So you mark 90 degrees here, and you mark your 90 degrees over here. Once you have this, you can take a ruler and connect the center point of this line to the 90-degree marking that you have made, and you draw a line that goes straight. And then over here, you draw another line that connects the center of this line to the 90-degree marking, and so you have found the center of the circle over here. So here we have our center point, and we're going to erase the rest because we don't need these lines anymore. So we found the center, and now we don't need these lines, so we're just going to take them out, and we're going to have a clean paper plate again with the center. So now we have a center, and we don't have any other lines over here. Again, you will use a pencil and not a pen, and you will draw a straight line which runs through the center. So just make a line which runs through the center, but please use a pencil because we will erase these lines once we complete our animation. So this is one line that we drew across. Now we need a line that goes perpendicular to this line. So again, we'll take a marking and we'll mark 90 degrees. So you see, I have to keep the protractor on this line very carefully and mark my 90 degrees here, and I turn it around and I mark the 90 degrees here. So now I have just 4 partitions. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we need 16 parts to this phonotrope. So we'll have to divide it further. So what is the 50%? What is the half of 90 degrees? It's 45 degrees, right? So we'll take 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 40, and 5, and we make a point here. Similarly, we go here, and 45 degrees is the center here. Here, 45, and we create a marking here, and we go 45 on this side. Now when we draw our lines, we get 8 partitions. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 partitions now. So I'm going to divide this further to 16 frames. create the 16 divisions on your phonodrome. Remember, you have to make it with a pencil. It's better to use a pencil so you can erase the lines later. So we'll be done with this. So today I'm going to show you how the animation has to be created on this. I'm going to demonstrate with a little example that I have here. Of course, this is a phenakistoscope and it is 16 frames, but there's an example that is already created here. So I'm just going to show you how this works. So if you look at the man here, he slowly becomes a devil on the opposite side. So this is frame number 1. You could number it. Frame number 1. And the opposite frame, okay, it turns into a devil. Now how does that happen? If you notice, gradually the horns and the mustache and the beard gradually grow. So if you look at the frames, it's slowly transforming till it finally becomes the devil. And then he goes back to being bald again. Can you see that? So slowly it goes back to becoming a bald man again. So, so this animation is a looping animation. So as this spins around, the man becomes a devil and then goes back to being a man again. Slowly over these frames, okay, over the 12 frames. By frame number 7 he becomes a devil, and back when he comes back to frame number 1 he becomes a man again. So that's the principle you're going to be using even when you create animation on this. Now in this you have 16 frames. So you have frame number 1, and the opposite frame will not be frame number 7, it will be frame number 9. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Frame number 9 is the opposite frame. So whatever you're doing here, let's say you're drawing a bald man and he will gradually grow his hair and become a man, which is a really hairy man. This is one example. Of course you can do various different things. You can do a bird flying, flapping its wings. So you can have a bird with its wings down, and gradually the wings go up and it will be right on top. So whatever you're doing here, the opposite drawing will come here, right? So it could be a flower that's blooming. So the flower could be a bud here. Gradually it becomes, the petals, it starts blooming slowly by slowly transforms and becomes a full grown flower on this side. It could be a tree which is growing from a sapling. So it could be a sapling here or a seed here that grows into a small sapling gradually and then grows into a complete full grown tree on frame number 9. And then it goes back to being the seed again. So you can do, or you could do a sunrise. So here there could be mountains and you can do a sun which is slowly coming up, and then it's up in the sky, high up in the sky in frame number 9, and then goes back and sets again. So you can come up with all different ideas, but remember that the change has to be very gradual. So as you can see here, the horns are growing very, very slowly till he has full grown horns. So that's how the animation is going to be done. I'm just going to demonstrate how you can do a slow change in your animation next. 16 frames, number 1 and number 9 will be opposite, okay, and it's going to be a looping animation. So I'm just going to do it on a rough sheet. You could do the same. You create a rough animation on a separate sheet of paper. So this is a rough sheet that I have. You can do it in a rough book or a rough sheet of paper at home. So I'm just going to put my frame numbers down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So I'm going to create my rough animation here. As you know, in animation, each frame, when you make each subsequent drawing or a frame, it should be slightly different from your previous drawing or frame. So I'm just going to do a jack in the box exercise to explain how it works. So this is my box. Okay, it's currently shut and you can see the size of the box. I will have to maintain the size of the box everywhere. So I have to ensure that the size remains more or less the same. Okay, you don't have to take a ruler or you don't have to measure it, but you have to kind of ensure, just eyeball it and ensure that the size remains more or less the same. Okay, now my box, the lid of the box is going to open up a little bit. So you can see every time I'm just making a slight change. So it's going to open up very slowly, and when it reaches frame number 9, it's going to open up completely. So here I make another frame number 3, and I'll open up the lid a little more. Maybe I can have the head of my character coming out, so it's slightly visible here because he's going to pop out. Now you see the size is the same of the box everywhere. Frame number 4, there it goes. The lid opens a little more and you can see more of the character. So you can probably see his eyes as well here. Okay, frame number 5. Again, I've made a little mistake here, but I can't erase it because I'm not using a pencil. But you'll be drawing in pencil, so you can take this out because I have to keep the size the same, right? So it's okay to make mistakes, and that's why you have to use a pencil and not a pen like me. And you make the lid open up a little more, and you have Jack coming out a little more. And you have his eyes here, and you can probably give him a little smile here. You have to keep looking at your drawing and trying to keep it the same size. And you have Jack coming out like this, and his neck is seen. And you keep the size the same. And you keep the head size the same. And you give him the, and then lid opens up, and you have Jack here. So he's going higher. And you have the box opened up, and you have Jack completely out, and he looks the same everywhere, and the box size is the same except for here where I made a mistake. So that can be erased out with an eraser. So if you're drawing with pencil, it's better. If you make mistakes, you can erase those out. And you have to keep the box size the same and the head of Jack the same. So he looks the same everywhere. So that's how you do your animation. Now, in this phonotrope, in this phenakistoscope, as I mentioned earlier, there is a circle. There is frame number 1, and opposite frame number 1 is frame number 7. In our phonotrope, it will be frame number 9. So 1 and 7. Now if you notice 2 and 12, they are exactly the same drawings. Frame number 3 and frame number 11, they are exactly the same because this is gradually growing. The horns are growing and then the horns are growing back. So these two are 3 and 11 are the same. 4 and 10 are the same, 5 and 9 are the same, and 6 and 8 are the same, right? In this case, in a phonotrope, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it goes back to 1, frame number 1, because it's a looping animation, right? So 9, 8 and 10 will be the same, 11 and 7 will be the same, 12 and 6 will be the same, 5 and 13 will be the same, 4 and 14 will be the same, 3 and 15 will be the same, and 2 and 16 will be the same. So it will go 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how it's going to loop. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then goes back to 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and comes back to 1. So it's going to loop. So we're going to do the same animation now on our phonotrope. So we have a rough, so we've made a plan of what we're going to do. Now we're going to transfer it onto our phonotrope. So you have your phonotrope here. With a pencil, put your numbers down so you don't make mistakes. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. We will erase out these numbers later on, but this will just help us to know which frame number we are working on and what animation we are doing. So remember, 1 and 9 are opposite. So that's your 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Right? So you have your 16 frames. Now you start with frame number 1, and we already have a rough animation ready. So we have to just follow this. It's very simple. So I'm going to see this line here, so I know roughly where I want to place my, so there's a slight dent on my paper plate. If you can see, there's a slight dent on the paper plate. So that can give me an indication of where I want to place it. So you can't place it up in one frame and down on the other frame. You'll have to keep it at the same place everywhere. It shouldn't go up and down. It has to be in the same spot everywhere, right? So here I'm going to keep it here. I'll have to be very careful to keep the size the same, right? So you see where I've drawn it here, frame number 1 and frame number 2. I'll have to keep it at the same spot. I'm doing this in pen, but I suggest you do it in pencil, so if you make mistakes you can erase. Only after I check your animation, only then do you use a felt pen or your colors to color it. Frame number 2, the box opens slightly, right? Remember we did that here. Box opens slightly. 2 and 16 are the same. 2 and 16 will be the same, right? Then you go back here and you do frame number 3, and I have to keep the box size the same, so I have to ensure it remains the same, and I'll open the box up a little bit more, and I'm going to again, I have to be very careful not to make mistakes because I cannot erase. I'm using a pen, and I'm going to open up and I'm going to show a little of his head here. That's frame number 4. Frame number 5. I'll have to keep the box size the same, and I'll have to open up the box a little more, and I'll have his head coming out a little more. Maybe I can just see his eyes here, right? And 7, and here I make 8. I have to keep it in the same place. I have to open the box and let him pop out and make his smile and frame number 9. I open the box straight, the lid goes straight. I have him popping out and a smile. And here he goes higher up, and I have him springing out of the box. So I have the box opening and it's gone up to frame number 9. Now 10 and 8 are the same. So it's very simple now, because all I have to do is copy this. 10 and 8 will be the same. But we have to maintain the size of the box. It has to remain the same throughout. So I'm going to keep the lid straight, just as it is in 8. And I'm going to bring the head a little lower, and I'm going to do this, and I have him smile. See, the head size remains the same everywhere. So keep your drawings very simple. You don't have to make very fancy drawings. You have to keep simple drawings. Now number 11 and number 7 will be the same, right? So the lid is closing a little bit, and you have the head going down a little bit, right? Now 6 and 12 are the same. So again, I have to draw my box. I have to keep it the same size, and you have the box closing a little bit more, and you have your head here, and you have this, and you have the neck. That's 6, right? 5, the head is half in and the lid has closed further. So that's what I'm going to do on number 13. And 5 will be the same. So the head will be half out and the lid will be partly shut. If you make a mistake like I have, the head has grown too big, you can always fix it. You can erase it and fix it. And now number 4, as you can see, the lid is almost closed, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do this, and I'm going to close it a little more, and the box will close a little more, and finally it closes. So you have your animation of your box ready. Once you do this, you remove the numbers, all the numbers, and do not erase the lines yet, because we're going to do another spiral animation right in the center. So you can erase these numbers. You don't need the numbers anymore, but you have the Jack in the Box animation. So let me show you a very simple animation that you will do in the middle, which is a lot of fun. I really love this part the best, because you don't have to worry where you start. You could start at 1 or you could start at 6. It doesn't matter. All you do is start right at the bottom here and slowly go up like a spiral. So you're going to make a spiral. I'm just showing you a dot, but you could do a balloon, you could do a kite, you could do a square, you could do a triangle, but each time the dot just goes higher and higher like a spiral. So each time it goes further away from the center. So you can see here it's closest to the center. Here it's going further away, and it's going further away, and it's going higher and higher and higher and higher. And you don't have to worry. This is the first frame, this is the last frame. This is where we started, this is where we've come, but you can still continue. You can still keep going higher and 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 higher, and there it goes. So you have a dot. Now you feel like, okay, I want to do something else. I'm enjoying this, I'm loving it. So you make a square, and you make the square go higher, and you can start anywhere. There is no rule, so you can start anywhere. All you have to do is go higher and higher each time. So you have to go away from the center. So you start closest. You could start here, so it's really close, and it goes higher, it goes higher, it goes higher, it goes higher, and it'll keep going higher, and that's how you create the spiral. But you have to keep the size of the square more or less the same, and just have a lot of fun, because this looks gorgeous, especially when you put different colors. It looks very pretty, and you make the spiral go higher, and it just goes higher and higher and higher. So do all this in pencil, do not do in pen like I have done, and if it's fine and if it works, you can color it, right? So you can see another phonotrope that I have created. Let me show you my other phonotropes. So as you can see, this is frame number 1. This is the phonotrope that I've already made. Of course, while making it, the edges have gone flat, which doesn't matter. So if that happens to your paper plate, don't worry about it. You can see this is frame number 1, and I have erased the lines. Once it's complete and it's fully colored, I have erased the lines, right? So you can see that this is frame number 1, and the ball goes slightly higher, it goes higher, and as it's going higher, if you notice, even the eyes are following the ball, the direction of the ball, right? And now it's right on top, and it's now landing on the other side. So that is frame number 9. It's opposite of frame number 1. Frame number 1, the hand is on the left, in the left hand, and in frame number 9, it lands on the right hand. So that is how the frames are opposite. Now slowly, once it reaches the right hand is going to throw it up. So he's going to juggle the ball, and it lands again on his right hand. Simultaneously, even the legs are moving. If you can notice, the legs are also moving. They're going up and down, and this beautiful spiral, and you can see how pretty it looks once it's all colored. So as you have already seen the demonstration of how you can do frame by frame animation, how you can make a gradual change in your animation from the first frame to the 9th frame and back to the first frame. So it's going to be a looping animation that you do. You've also seen how to create the spiral in the end, in the center, which looks very, very interesting in the phonotrope. So I hope you all make your animations. I hope you enjoy creating the animations. You can color it, and you can give it a nice interesting outline with sketch pens. You can use color pencils, you can use crayons, and make it look as attractive as ever. So happy animating. See you again soon. Okay, great. So any questions? Everybody is clear what needs to be done? Is everybody clear what needs to be done? So you don't need to do it right now, even after in the evening. You can make your phonotropes. You don't need to finish your animation right now. As Aditi said, you have to submit it, I think, early next month by the 5th of October.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so you all can make many different, and best phonotrope can be submitted to Cinevidya. So if you have any questions right now, I'm here to answer.
Yes. We have a question here from Nivedita, who wants to know how you keep your creativity alive.
Sorry,
Nivedita would like to know how you keep your creativity alive.
how I keep my creativity alive?
Yes.
Okay, I interact with a lot of children, so I'm always with kids. I'm always learning from kids. I don't think I teach children. I think I learn from children because I think children are more creative. They have completely wacky, out of the box ideas, and I'm a student. So since morning, you all of you have been attending Ranjit sir's session and Munjal sir's session. So I never stopped learning. So I attended those two, and I learned a lot from them. So I remain a student all through my life. I've remained a student. So I don't consider myself a teacher. So I learn from all of you. That's how
Good
I keep my
afternoon,
connection.
Taziman. That's so kind of you to say these words, and I'm very sure that our youngsters, they will get very, very inspired by such a such an expression from you. I mean, somebody like you who has been an inspiration to so many of us, including my own self. Thank you very much, ma'am. We have a we have a very keen participant, Amitabh. His name is Amitabh, incidentally, Amitabh
Okay.
Bajpai. So
Okay.
Amitabh is here. He has a question for you.
Yeah, Amitabh.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yeah, hi, Amitabh.
Ma'am, I have a question that for becoming an animator, do we need to have any degree?
Yes, 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 yes. So I'll tell you what, a lot of people think that if they learn softwares, they can easily do animation. And there's a shortcut, you don't need to study, you don't need to learn things, but that's not true. I think to be an animator, an animator needs to be everything, a lot of different qualities. He needs to understand a lot about art, design, so all that creativity comes from there. If you're creating a character, even if you're creating it on a computer, you should understand anatomy. So drawing skills, I think, are very, very important. So an art education for background or a foundation of an art, having an art background is very, very crucial. So, I think animators who have an art background have an edge over the other ones who do not have an art background. Not that they are not good animators, but animators who come with that background definitely have an edge over the ones who don't. Then I think an animator has to be an actor as well, because he has to make his characters act and perform. So I think art, theater, music, I think animation is an amalgamation of everything, and also mathematics and physics. So education is crucial. I mean, you have to study, you have to have a graduation and art background preferably. But I know a lot of animators who have an engineering background, who also do extremely well, or an architecture background, who do extremely well in animation. So understanding of physics, because weight, every character has weight. Some are, the fat characters are bulky, so they will take longer to walk. The inertia will be a lot more, and rather than a slim, lanky character will be far more agile and will move very quickly. So an understanding of science, physics, mathematics, like I think this morning your Tony sir, Ranjit sir, we call him Tony. So he was talking about, how many frames per second and how you capture, and how you create a slow motion. So that had a lot of mathematics to it. So I think an education always helps. In any field you go, you have to have a strong foundation and a strong background in education, any kind, right? So yes, a foundation is important.
Thank you so much for that answer, Tehzeeb ma'am. That's one question that has been coming to us since the morning, so it's very great to have an answer from you. Another question is from Shubhangi. Um, how will I know if the animation career is really meant for me?
I think if you have a passion, uh, you you'll know. I mean, see, I'll tell you one thing: doing workshops like this doesn't mean you have to take animation as a career. Doing workshops like this just kind of enhances your knowledge and information about different aspects. So animation is just one aspect. I mean, there are so many different subjects out there. So you don't need to pursue this as a career. I always tell my students, if you come to my workshop, doesn't mean you have to become an animation filmmaker. But if you're passionate about it and you enjoy watching films, observing how the characters are performing, how the characters are, developed, how the story is being told. So if you're a good storyteller, if you feel that you have those qualities, if you have a good sense in music and understanding of music as well, and you have these qualities in you, then you automatically know, yes, I do have those qualities to be a good animation filmmaker, and I can pursue that, and I can develop these skills. So at this young age, I don't think you should decide on what you want to do. I think you continue your learning. I think after you finish your 11th and 12th is when you will really know exactly where you want to head in your life and what you want to pursue. I mean, I know a lot of people till 40, they don't know what to do. So don't be in a hurry. Just keep working, keep learning everything. Learn music, learn theater, learn dance. I think everything helps in anything you pursue. You may want to become a lawyer, but I mean, it's okay if you're a good dancer as well. I mean, you don't know where it could help you. So I think this is the age to learn and absorb, and then apply it later on in your life, and you will apply it, whatever you learn today. Agastya has something that he's done. Oh wow, he's done something that looks interesting.
Okay, just a moment. I'll just.
What is it? It's a hand going up and down. What is that, Agastya? Can you tell us what you've done? It looks very nice. Put your speakers on. Yeah, show it to us again so everybody can see it on the big screen.
I did that devil thing. I'm not done yet. I made that devil face.
Devil thing. Okay, that's cool. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
You did a good job.
Already. Wow.
Wow, that was excellent. Excellent. That's excellent.
I was doing it while the video was on.
Okay. So what I'd like all of you to do is complete your phonotrope. The reason I'm saying that, even if you make a rough one, you know that this is not the final one you want to submit later, make a phonotrope in the evening. It doesn't take too much time. It'll take 15 or 20 minutes. So make your 16 frames, make an animation, maybe as basic as a little ball growing from a small dot to a big dot, a growing dot. So frame number 1 could be a small dot, and frame number 9 could be a big dot, and it becomes a small dot again. So it could be as simple as that. Or you want to have a mouth opening, closing.
Ma'am, we could, I think we could show them some examples that you had shared with us. We will show it to them from here. From here, we will try to, we'll just share it.
We can share the examples. So make something, because tomorrow I will teach you how to shoot the animation. So how do you capture it with a camera? So we'll show you how to set up a camera. So you can, whatever you do today, tomorrow you can test it out. So have something ready, color it and keep it ready. And we will just share, Amitabh sir will share some examples, so you will get an idea. So make something very basic. Don't make something elaborate. Don't make very complicated drawings. Keep your drawings very, very simple, because this is your first animation. I mean, for most of you, it will be the first. So keep it as simple as possible. Just have fun.